Bam. Bam. Hey, how are you? How are you? It is Thursday night. Well, Thursday afternoon, 4:30 here Central Time, August 11th, 2022. I'm your host, John Schenk of Deerwood Realty. I'm the founder of Deerwood Realty. I am the managing broker of Deerwood Realty, and after September, I'll be the only agent at Deerwood Realty because my favorite agent ever of all time, Jan, is leaving. And so it's just going to be me for a while, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm working through it. It's sad, but Jan's retiring. It's not like she's just leaving me on purpose. Well, I guess she's leaving me on purpose, but what difference does it make, right? So we concentrate mainly on residential sales. I help buyers buy homes and sellers sell theirs. And yeah, I have this live stream, and we talk about real estate news. We talk about popular culture. We have real estate commentary. It's just a fun place to be, and you should probably subscribe if that's something you're interested in. If it's not, then YouTube has lied to you and put you in the wrong spot, and you should direct all of your angst and animosity towards the algorithm and not towards me and my real estate channel. Hey, it's a good day. I have been working since like Friday. I mean, hard, like every day, but way more than 8 hours, and really getting after it. And it's been hot. It's been tough. I've had a lot of successes recently, and certainly that makes me feel better. But man, it has been a haul. Today was the first day that I was able to just kind of sit back and relax. And I didn't really sit back and relax, but at least I wasn't on the go all day long. I could actually get to some of my paperwork. I could actually get to returning calls, returning emails, in a faster manner. And I could just kind of sit down and think for a little while. It's you won't believe if you don't do this. I mean, if this isn't your business, you won't believe that being a real estate agent is challenging. There's a mental aspect to it. There's a physical aspect to it. And it's challenging. It's really something, especially like if this is your full-time job, this is tough. This is tough. And so, I mean, it was rough. Like, I don't know if you saw my live stream yesterday, but I showed at least 24 houses over the weekend, made offers on houses. I mean, it was hot and it was miserable and it was rough. And then I managed to get a house under contract on, I believe Monday or Tuesday. And then I had to get all the paperwork together for that. Something about a real estate offer. If you're the buyer's agent or even the seller's agent, like as soon as you go under contract, there's like a flurry of activity, and then it kind of slows down. And then you're kind of like, well, this is weird. It's kind of peaceful. And then multiply that by however many deals you have, and it just gets wild. So today was that day where things actually just calmed down. My email wasn't going crazy. My texts weren't going crazy. And the weather outside is gorgeous. I know that a weather report to someone in a different part of the country isn't really that interesting, but man, it gets hot here and humid, and going in and out of houses, some of which are air conditioning and some of which air conditioning doesn't appear to be working, or the sellers have set their air conditioning to a stupid level. It's going in and out of the heat, and you're just miserable. And so, I don't necessarily prefer to show houses in the winter. When I show houses in the winter, it's dark at 4:00. It's like, you can't see the backyards anymore. So, it's just part of the business. I hope you don't think I'm complaining too much, but boy, today it's nice. It's nice to actually get some fresh air, some space. So, we have a lot to talk about today. We're not going to talk about anything on Google. No Google trends. Lately, things have been kind of, I would say, dark. I'm not. I mean, when people die, I don't find a lot of humor in that. Politics is not going real well right now. I mean, that's kind of a mess. Uh, it just does. The news isn't great, and so why should we? Well, I wouldn't say that wrestling. I don't even watch wrestling, but boy, it's just dominating. It dominates Twitter. It dominates uh, Google search. I mean, it's amazing how many people really like wrestling, and I don't think that it's because there's more people that like wrestling than anything else. It's just that like these people that watch wrestling are kind of connected to the internet. I mean, I don't know. I'm amazed by the vigor of the one, like, is it like extra, I don't even know what the name of the Tony Khan sponsored wrestling promotion. I don't even know what it is, but they like lead Twitter every time they're doing a show. It's amazing to me. So anyway, I'm not equipped to go with too much wrestling, so we're not going to. One thing I wanted to go over, and now this is not a humorous death story. I'm going to have to get over here. Let me see here. Yes, I should have done this before. But I saw something on the internet yesterday, and I couldn't believe it, and I kind of want to share it with you because I'm just shocked. Now, let's agree that, don't come at me because Wikipedia is a bad source. I understand that it's not the best source and everything like that, and it's biased, and I mean, it's fine. But I just wanted to go through this with you and see what you thought, if you're my age. Okay, here we go. Let's see if it showed up. Did you know? I saw this on Twitter yesterday, and I couldn't believe it. Did you know that Bernie Mac, first of all, is dead? And then he's been dead for 14 years? I saw that yesterday. And the first thing I said was, well, I guess that's why I haven't seen him around very often lately. Thinking it was like last year that he might have passed. 14 years. Bernie Mac dead. Has that ever happened to you? I mean, first of all, 14, you'd think 14 years? It was like yesterday. I don't remember his passing 14 years ago, as I was surprised when I saw that he had passed yesterday. It's interesting to me, not in a good way, but how we look at time. I'll just go over this for fun. When I was a kid, it seemed like the days lasted forever, and it wasn't fun. We didn't have a lot of like video games. I mean, we were getting like the Game Boy was a little bit like a few years after me. So portable gaming was really not possible. There's no way. I mean, we had nothing like our phones today. But as I've gotten older, it just seems like time is accelerating. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's the perception of time or if we're just so busy or what's going on, but man, I mean, there are days like literally 14 years have passed since this man has passed, and I didn't even know he was dead. Like my youngest child is 13 years old. She was not on earth at the same point that Bernie Mac was. And I thought that he was a great entertainer. I really did. I'm just shocked by that. And I'm shocked by how fast time flies. And, I don't know if it's true. If I get older, it's going to keep accelerating. And pretty soon I'm going to wake up one day and it's going to be a year's gone. I try to tell that to my kids. I try to explain things to my kids. They don't want to have anything to do with me. As far as advice, they all know it all. And that's fine, I guess. We'll let them figure it out. Maybe it won't happen to them. I know that the oldest, when he was going to college, he made fun of me because I was kind of fat and I was losing my hair, or I'd already lost my hair. And he was like, that's never going to happen to me. And he's 26 now. And some of the things I said better look out for happened. So do I take great joy in being right? No. But I just wish he would have listened to me then. Also, these kids, like, not as a complaint, but I'm 45 years old. Some of these kids think that, like, I mean, you're in your athletic prime, at least men that I remember, at least, 18 to 25. I mean, you can do anything, literally anything. It's amazing. 45. I mean, I got a comment one time on one of the videos I was saying as a joke that, if me and my friends were moving stuff, I'd end up in the, one of us would end up in the hospital now. And they're like, well, you're 45 and you're in your prime and, be the man that your grandparents said you should be. And I'm like, it's not the point. It's not the point. It was weird. I don't think they got the joke, but it is amazing how we change over time. And so anyway, Bernie Mac dead 14 years ago. Just kind of finding out about it yesterday. Somewhat embarrassed, but somewhat sad. So anyway, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is kind of how we look at things as real estate agents, or how I look at things as real estate agents. I don't want to speak for anyone else today, but let's just go over something. So let's say that all the data you see is telling you that there's a housing market slowdown. Okay. And when you go look at houses, you feel like there's a slowdown, but you can't exactly put your finger on it. And you see houses that used to go under contract, still go under contract, but 2 weeks later come back on the market for various reasons. Either can't get a loan, no fault. It's never the fault of the seller, even though it's probably half the time the fault of the seller. They didn't agree to inspections or something. But we've been in this market for now 2 years where I'm getting my hat handed to me week after week on showings. I'll go show houses and we'll write offers and there'll be, 30 other people writing an offer. And that's changed. Now, I've been in the business long enough to know when the housing market is terrible, buyers will try to take advantage of sellers. And when the housing market is wonderful for sellers, they will try to take advantage of buyers. And so I just, well, thank you, JT, for that. I appreciate that Indiana has the best rentals in the U.S. I wasn't aware of that. Anyway, it's just crazy to me, like, how it works. So if you get mad at your agent because you feel like they're being taken advantage of in a hot buyer's market, then maybe you'll be happy with them when they're in a hot seller's market. I mean, that's just how it goes. So anyway, that's what I was thinking about. And then it's like, well, what do you do if you're in the market right now and you see that the houses you see it slowing down, but your buyer wants to buy a house and they want to buy it this weekend. And a house is coming on the market that they want to buy. What do you do? How do you structure your offer? It's tough. I mean, could you dare go in below asking? Under what criteria could you go? If you call the listing agent and you say, hey, what's going on with this house? Can we get, do you have any offers? And they can say, yes. I've had houses where I've had an offer, but the offer is below asking. So I still tell the buyer's agent that the house is active and that we have an offer, but there's nothing I can do about, I can't tell them what the offer is. So it's a very weird situation. What if you have a buyer that's very intense and they're like, we're buying this house. So now you almost have to come in over asking. You almost have to put in the best offer you can, even though you're watching the market change. you're watching the market change. So, I don't know if you guys work in situations where you can be fired like in a minute, but I work in a job where, like, if I don't produce, I'm gone. Like, they will just find another agent. There's probably 8,000 of them in St. Louis right now. And so, gosh, it's tough. It's tough. What do you do? So for this weekend, I have showings with 4 different buyers that I know of right now on Thursday. There'll be a few more. I'm going to call the agents. I'm going to say, do you have any offers? If they say yes, we're going to be a little aggressive. But I'm going to tell my buyers, look, we can see there's more inventory coming on the market. There's more housing deals falling through. This is something we want to, if you don't get this house, maybe there's another one next week. But it's tough. So anyway, I wanted to go over that. That was my thought. Now I want to get into the interest rates, because that's kind of interesting too. So I'm gonna go here. Oh, I don't like that. I'll go here. What's going on? Why isn't the one there we go. That's the one I want. So this is at Deerwood Realty. It says, you go down the bottom of the page and we have our little survey for the 30-year fix, and it's right here. It says 30-year fix is at 5.18% today. It's down 17 basis points from yesterday. I've said over and over again, if we can keep the interest rates below 5.5% for a 30-year fixed, I'm okay with that. When it spiked, if you can see this, when it spiked above 6% quickly, I mean, you can see how fast it went up. That was when I got worried. Like, that might be problematic. And things still might be problematic. I mean, some people are saying that they're saying that the market's going to be a complete disaster. Not only will there be inflation, but people will lose their jobs and therefore they can't afford houses and the house prices have to come down. I don't know. I don't wish for bad on anybody or anything. But if we can stay below 5.5% on a 30-year fixed, I think we'd be okay. I mean, in my lifetime, that's been about where you want to be. So that's where I'm at on that. Let's move on to our first article. Now, I think today we're going to go, through more than one article. We're not going to waste too much time on any particular one. Have lots of things to go over, and I just kind of want to get them out and talk to you about them. And so that's what we'll do. So the first article, I wanted to share this with you because I don't think people realize how much fraud there is in real estate. So this is an article I pulled on the 6th. Now I know it's a little bit late. It says new court document says man allegedly stole a stranger's Newtown home without him knowing. Okay. And so we'll go over this because I think it's important. So it says court documents are revealing what led Newtown police to arrest a Willington man who is accused of selling a house that he never owned. The case is one of an alleged identity theft by a man who has a name very similar to the actual owner. I thought this was fashion. Like, you know how somebody has like a name like White, like a last name like White, or let's see, White, Black, any name like Smith, Jones. So it says the Newtown police investigation started on August 24th, and Edward Robert Lewis of Willington was arrested on July 25th, nearly a year after the sale happened. The actual owner, a man in East Dennis, Massachusetts, who owned lakefront property in Sandy Hook, called police last August to report a potential identity theft after his neighbors alerted to him to what was happening at his home. His neighbors told him that another man has visited the property and identified himself as the owner, but the owner had not sold. He told police that the property had been vacant for years and the home was uninhabitable, but he was holding onto it as an investment. It says police learned that the property, which is assessed at more than $250,000, had been sold on July 26, 2021 for $65,000, and sale documents were filed with the town. Now, this is a very fascinating story. It doesn't just end there. So it says when police talked to the man who bought the property, they began to discover what happened. So there was a honest to goodness, good intentioned buyer that went to buy a house. Okay. The person he bought it from was not the person who owned the house. Okay. That's where it gets weird. Now you say, well, that's not legal. Well, no, that's not legal. It's a mess. So it says, he told them that he'd been interested in land on Lake Zor and saw a property that looked vacant and abandoned. So he asked the neighbors who owned it. They said the owner had been thinking about selling, but it was not for sale at the time. It says, then the prospective buyer contacted a real estate agent who gave him the name of the owner and several phone numbers listed for someone by the same name. So this isn't uncommon. So someone may call me and say, hey, can you look up who owns this house? Well, I don't have any inside track on who owns the house. I can literally look up the property records and see who is on the tax title. But I mean, I just get a name. And if you could have an owner by contract situation, you could have an unrecorded deed situation. So what this agent probably did was they probably looked up the tax record, saw a name, and then went on Google and just looked up names that might be somebody close around to get a phone number, and then sent that over to the buyer. Like, if you're the agent, like you've got to distinguish between people that are actually serious about buying houses and those that aren't. In this case, I suspect that the agent was like, there's nothing I can win on this one, and not worth me spending any more time on it. So that's probably what they did. They probably just punted it. And so it says the buyer called the first number, and the person who answered said he did own the property, and he agreed to sell it for $65,000. The sale and wire transfer were completed July 26th. Okay, so we see that's July 26th, and so that's the day. So it says, as police looked into the sale, an attorney representing the buyer presented police with a notarized deed provided by the town's clerk office in Newtown. According to court documents, it has been notarized at a bank and signed by Lewis, according to court documents. Now, I don't know about Lewis. Oh, it says the investigation. Edwin Robert Lewis of Willington was arrested. Okay, so that's who was arrested. Now, let's look into this. So there's nothing unusual about a notary deed from an official, an office. There's nothing unusual that this happens. He could have been Lewis. It says police wrote that it's believed that because Lewis and the real owner have such similar names, that the notary believed the two men were the same person, and police believe that Lewis used his bank account to fraudulently represent himself as the property owner, according to court paperwork. So what happened is like they say, are you the Lewis that owns this house? Yes, I'm the Lewis that owns this house. Here's my proof that I own this house. That's what the notary sees. And apparently it was close enough that the notary believed that this was okay. Now, this is an argument for in-person closings, and this is the argument that many title companies have had forever, okay? Because title companies tend to understand real estate fraud really well, because if it happens, it's going to happen at the transfer of title. So title companies say, we want you to come in person, okay, to sign, either if you're buying a house or if you're selling. We want you to show up in person, provide identification that this is who you say you are. And then you sign paperwork that says you go by this name. There's aliases that some people have. There could be a whole page of them. You sign that. You sign an affidavit that you are who you say you are. As Dennis Green used to say back in the day, we are who we thought they were, or they are who they thought they were. So now everyone says that this is new technology that we're in. We just can sign paperwork digitally, like DocuSign. Now, I use DocuSign for all of my offers. All of my sales contracts are DocuSign, but we still go to the title company to close in person. I don't know. I don't believe this would have worked digitally or in person, because this person their name was so close that they got away with it. It says Lewis has been charged with money laundering in the second degree, identity theft in the first degree, larceny in the first degree, criminal impersonation, and forgery in the second degree. It says NBC Connecticut called the phone number listed for him, and the person who answered initially hung up, but later referred NBC Connecticut to a law firm, which is kind of interesting. They're like, I'm hanging up on you. And then somehow they called back or something. It says Christopher Cerami, a lawyer with Willinger, and Bucci, who is representing Lewis, the man who I believe has been arrested for this crime, provided NBC Connecticut with a statement on Wednesday. It says, our client intends to plead not guilty, and we intend to present evidence in the appropriate form to confirm his not guilty plea. So he says he's not guilty. Very few people say they are guilty. I don't know. It says, the person who bought the property from Lewis told NBC Connecticut that he lost around $75,000, but he eventually did buy the property from the actual owner. So isn't that a fascinating twist? In text, the legitimate property owner told NBC Connecticut, I'm grateful the Newtown Police Department did the work to finish the investigation, and I'm very glad there was no evidence making the collar. No violence making the collar. No violence. That didn't make any sense to me. So this is a fascinating story. What could you have done to prevent this? If you were the seller of the property? Well, I would say one of the things you could have done is not let your house be all dilapidated and try to keep up with the repairs, because then you're not going to have somebody looking. I would say you could also attempt to list the property for sale if you're interested in selling it, rather than leave it abandoned. One of the things we do, I cut my arm, so I'm going to just kind of do that. Anyway, one of the things we do as real estate agents, good listing agents will always want to know if they can sell the property that the person is actually asking them to sell. You may say, well, that seems obvious. No, it's not. No, it's not. People do all kinds of squirrely stuff. If there's a divorce, people do squirrely stuff. If mom and dad have just passed away, there's squirrely stuff. We don't know. Like, it might have to go to probate. We don't know who's selling the house. So that's one of the first questions we ask if we're going to try to list a property is who owns this property? And is the person I am talking to the legitimate owner of this property? Now, I can't determine legally if the person is, but at least I have all the information that I can get. At least I make an effort. So that's what I do on the listing side. Have I ever had someone, mess with me on the listing side? No. Most people that call, every person that's called has always owned the property. Now, if you're a buyer, what do you need to worry about? Well, I would always worry about being an unrepresented buyer. If you're not represented by an agent and you're looking for a deal, say you're looking like that, there's nothing wrong with wanting to save money, if that makes any sense. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you go searching for that property, that quote unquote diamond in the rough that's priced $30,000 less than a similar house would be on the marketplace, and you're not being represented by anyone and you're being told all kinds of stories. That's not good. So I don't know. I thought it was a very interesting story from the fact that, first of all, whenever you do, most people, when they get ripped off like this, they can't afford to buy the house afterwards, legitimately buy it. So that was interesting that this person was able to. And then I just want to put it through the way I'm thinking about it. So let's say I'm sitting here in my office and someone calls and says, hey, I'd like to buy your house in California. Now, I've never been to California. And they may start off actually by saying like, hey, are you John Schenk? And are you the owner of a property in California? Now, knowing that I've not been in California ever, and I know that I don't have any ownership of a property, and I said yes, I don't know if that's a joke or if that leads me down this path of trying to sell a home that isn't mine and trying to make, this fellow made 65 grand. It's hard for me to believe that you just randomly called someone and they just happen to be willing to commit a crime. Doesn't that seem odd? The story doesn't add up. anyway, I just thought I'd bring it to you. I thought that was fascinating. So let's make a hard turn to the next article. I thought this was also interesting. Wanted to share it with you. Let's go here. Has the pandemic killed open house refreshments? Now, this is hard hitting, very important, and I don't know the answer. I kind of want to read because, like, what I would say is, look, when I do an open house, first of all, I don't do open houses very often. Second of all, when I do open houses, there's no food. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe, but I don't know how many people are coming. I don't want people walking around like, say you got a ham sandwich or something and they're dropping ham all over the floor. They got kids and they're all putting their fingers all over everything and got chips. And I've never, and then during the Rona, that was never going to work, because people were, they got their masks on. You can't eat with a mask on. So this wasn't my problem. Now, some real estate agents that I know, they're treating like when they have a hard house to sell, they'll have a whole darn party for the open house. They'll have a band, they'll have food. It's going to be an awesome time. And I typically don't get invited to those because they're like, we don't want to, you're an agent and we're going to sell this house to somebody else anyway. So I don't get to go to those. But that's not an issue for me, like with the pandemic, because I was never invited to those anyway. Now you say, well, John, maybe you're just selling houses that are not expensive and therefore. So that's an interesting question. I've been to houses where they're pricey. I feel like anything over $500,000 to me is a lot of money here in St. Louis. And they've had branded water bottles, the agents, and some candy. I once went to a house and they had these little, I thought they were chocolate covered raisins, but they were chocolate covered coffee beans. Ugh, that's disgusting. I don't like coffee, but that's bad. So anyway, let's look at the article. Enough of me talking. It says, so how real estate agents are approaching snacks in 2022. It says, if you've attended an open house. Now, by the way, this could be regional. So what's true in St. Louis may not be true in, well, let's see, our person wrote in the chat, Indiana has the best rentals in the U.S. So maybe Indiana, maybe they have food at their open houses. But anyway, if you've attended an open house since the onset of the pandemic, it's likely either been a virtual experience, which isn't true, or the home has been sanitized within an inch of its life, which probably isn't true either. And with the current levels of hypervigilance around health and safety has come the loss of perhaps the second biggest perk of open houses, free snacks. The number one perk is snooping through a stranger's home. So this is written tongue in cheek because I think it's creepy to snoop through someone else's home. Pre-pandemic, we used to have fresh baked cookies, those kinds of things, said Sagme Park, founder of the Sagme Park team at Compass. Now, Compass, I think they advocate for snacks. But after the pandemic, people don't even use the restroom. Well, I don't know that you should use the restroom in a listing. People do. I hate it. I hate when my buyers do it. I hate it. Can't stand it. Drives me insane, but people do it. I have one person, I think they just have a bad bladder. They're like, every time we go to a house, they're looking at like 4 houses. We got to go to the bathroom 4 times. It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, it says the Takeout spoke with the New York City real estate agent about trends in open house refreshments and whether anything can create an inviting atmosphere the same way food can. So have you heard about like people bake bread in the oven? People bake popcorn. I don't really like popcorn. Anyway, brokers still enjoy refreshments. That's true. I would enjoy a good refreshment. It says, while the pandemic may have killed the snacks at a public open house, those held for brokers still include something to munch on. According to Park, it's largely because brokers were still out in the field and accustomed to being around others during much of the pandemic when many people shifted to remote work. As a result, brokers are more comfortable sharing food. That's right. 2 weeks after the pandemic started, I was getting calls from buyers and they said, we want to go buy houses. And so I said, okay, we'll go. I couldn't get a PPE loan or whatever the hell. I just had to go sell houses. So, like, that's my job, and I had to represent buyers, and so that's what I did. And I would do it again. For a public open house for actual buyers, they're more careful. They don't want to try food on the kitchen countertop with a bunch of people coming in and out. It doesn't work anymore. I never did like it. I don't like a lot of that stuff. I mean, like, my favorite thing in the world is when I'm having a party is a cold cut tray with a cheese tray next to it and some dollar rolls. I mean, that's great, but nobody wants to touch everything and then put that in their mouth. I get it. So it says sweets are out. The real estate market is apparently making all saltier than we realize, because Park says everyone is passing on desserts these days. With everyone's varying preferences, it's also easier to supply food with a built-in variety, such as multiple types of pizzas or sandwiches, which are Park's refreshments of choice at open houses. This way she can order options for every diet restriction. And that's just it. I appreciate people having dietary concerns. Okay. No question. But for me to find a meal that suits everyone, God forbid I have something that had peanuts in it and somebody, or seafood, some people are, and just, it'd be terrible. So would I like cookies at an open house? I would eat if a good chocolate chip cookie were at an open house and there weren't a lot of people around, I'd take 2 or 3. I would. Anyway, local snacks are best. It says Park recently had a listing in a 4-story townhouse building in a very community-oriented area. So she brought pizza from a popular local restaurant around the corner to highlight the neighborhood's offering. But it's not worth the effort in every part of town. If it's Midtown or Hell's Kitchen, those areas where you don't really see people have the local vibe, it's a little different. But for, say, Tribeca, then a local restaurant is always a nice touch to introduce the neighborhood to the buyer. So St. Louis, I don't know. I took some buyers out to lunch because we were gonna be gone all day this weekend, and I took them to a place that was close to a house that they ended up buying. I don't think that the restaurant really did that, but I don't think it made them buy the house. It was good food though. I really liked the restaurant. So would I ever? I think pizza. I don't know about you, but I'm in St. Louis, and pizza's kind of different here. We have a St. Louis style pizza, which I love it. People not from here don't love it. Apparently they don't like the Provel cheese, which I find just wonderful. And they don't like the salt, we have like a cracker crust. It's a thin pizza. But I say that. And then Little Caesars they're doing their thin crust pizza right now for the summer. So I don't know. Anyway, would I do Emos? Like, Emos is considered one of the better ones. Would I do that at an open house? No. I kind of want people to focus on the house and getting in and getting out. That's just me. It says nothing messy. There will be no salads at an open house, lest you send the cherry tomato you were trying to fork flying across the room and onto a white Chase lounge. And sorry if you were hoping for a glass of Pinot Noir to go with your vegan gluten-free slice of pizza. Red wine is a no-go. If Park serves alcohol, she's opting for rosé. Otherwise, she likes to serve a fancy non-alcoholic beverage, maybe something fizzy that comes in a nice bottle. Nowadays, there's so many cool drinks that are non-alcoholic. I usually go for those kinds of small brands made of natural ingredients. Now, clearly this is regional, because I have not had an alcoholic drink ever at an open house. And I can name on my left hand the number of times I've even seen food at an open house that I would consider like real food. Yeah, I've been doing this since 2009. Baking smells, not cooking smells, are your friend. Before the pandemic, Park would heat up cookies before the start of an open house to get the scent of a dessert wafting through the property, but non-baking cookie smells, think fried chicken, are more buyer beware than mom's home. They will see that as a bad sign. Like, oh, it smells like food. The whole apartment, maybe the ventilation isn't working. That's correct. That's correct. And if you're in a terrible house, like just between you and me, if we're at a house together, okay, and like I've told you about the shower houses, those houses in which when I immediately open the door, I want to take a shower and just get out of there. I'm not eating food at that house. I don't even want to be there. So then in those houses, typically what you'll get is a vanilla, overwhelming stench of vanilla air fresheners because they're trying to hide the mold that's growing in the basement. Definitely don't want to eat, and definitely don't want a cookie smell to try to overcome a vanilla smell when you're trying to hide a mildew and mold smell. Food scented candles are still a hit. It says you don't need to use food to create an atmosphere. You can always use the next best thing, a food scented candle. People love it. They feel like they're at home. They feel comfortable. I do that all the time. It says one of her favorites is the Bias Berries candles from Dip TQ, which smells like black currant berries, and I can only assume financial stability. What are your thoughts? Are you I don't even like to have candles at an open house. I don't want to have an open flame. I don't want anything bad to happen at an open house. I don't want somebody to walk through the screen door. I don't want someone to fall down the steps. I don't want someone to slip and fall on the way in the house. I don't want someone to have a ceiling fan fall from the ceiling. I don't want someone to hit their head going down the stairs. So I'm not in this camp of having food anyway. I'm scared to death that something's going to happen at an open house. So I don't know. You tell me, whatever part of the country you're from, put it in the comments. What do they do? Do they have food at open houses even after the pandemic? I mean, food too. Let's not kid ourselves. Butterscotch on the, a Werther's original is not food. Okay. At an open house. That's just, and by the way, I was at a house this weekend and they had a candy dish, but it had a lid on it. And I don't think those candies were for me. There were 3 different types. I saw them. I eyed them, but I didn't take any because it didn't seem like they were for me. I mean, I like chocolate, and it was there. It was, but you never know if there's a camera, and you never know if, I don't know. It looked good. I just didn't do it. Gonna move on. Gonna go here. I feel like I'm in the flow of things today. Really working by the way, I moved up to the 1080p broadcast for my streaming software. If it looks good, tell me. I'm trying to make a better product for you, more clear. My camera I've never really liked my camera because it autofocuses all the time. And so if you look at the background, there's always things that are like blurry because it's focusing on me, which I'm fine with, but like I might be a bit autistic. I might look at something in the background and focus on it when I'm listening to someone. I don't know. I don't mean that. I'm not trying to, hurt autistic people or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I don't always focus on the person talking. I sometimes focus on, and I've seen they have reports and they have stories that this is what people with autism do. Again, not a criticism of any kind. So this article here, I thought this was the Herald Sun. I thought that this may be the one that rounds us out of the show. It may not. Who knows? But like in your world, okay, are there things that when you read them, you say, well, I'm not surprised, or it's plausible? Let me do one that's kind of gross. If you saw a newspaper article that said people are sick because they swam in a pool infected with E. coli, okay, is that believable to you? It should be. It should be, because I've seen it like every single summer since I've been alive, at least once in a newspaper. Another one, like, here we go. On a snowy day, if you saw an article that said people are wrecking their cars left and right due to slippery conditions, you'd believe that, right? Well, I would. Okay. So the first story that we read today with the seller who sold a house that wasn't his, allegedly, seems something's a little bit off on that story, but whatever. This story here, landlord told property manager to make Texas tenant miserable so they'd move. Emails show. So what's the number one thing you think that a landlord would do to a tenant who didn't pay their rent? Well, I'll tell you what I think the number one thing. They change the locks on the doors. Okay? I think they would do that. Now, I don't think it's good. I don't think they should. In fact, I see both sides of it. I see the landlord side and I see the tenant side. I have zero sympathy for corporate landlords. That is like these slumlords that own apartment complexes, and they intentionally look for people that are down on their luck, and they give them a place to live. So they're trapped there for the rest of their lives in an uncomfortable, dangerous situation. I hate those companies. I hate them with a passion. And whatever evil comes to them, I'm totally good with. And this is just my opinion. So anyway, let's look at this. Now, when we look at this first picture even, it doesn't look like a place I'd want to live. It says a corporate landlord wanted a tenant in Texas gone and ordered the manager of a San Antonio property to harass them into leaving using a variety of strategies as cruel as they are creative. A government report shows. Now, it says in an email to management at the Siegel Suites, a number of strategies are laid out, including replacing the woman's functioning air conditioner with a broken unit, having security knock on her door at least twice every night, and disabling her TV from outside using a master remote. Okay, so that's just evil. Now, I don't care if the person paid their rent or not. It's just evil. It says the email was sent by a senior vice president of operations with a Las Vegas-based company called the Siegel Group, according to a recently released U.S. House subcommittee report, which includes the email in question. So a couple of things. Number one, this may show my politics, but anything that the Congress does to investigate is usually fraught with difficulty and totally screwed up. I have no faith in them to be able to investigate anything. I have no faith in them to be able to investigate something to write different laws. It's basically a shit show. And it's been that way since I've been a kid. Maybe it's been that way from before then. You can lie. We've shown you can lie. You can do anything you want to with these hearings, unless you're the wrong political party. Then you're in trouble. But for the most part, these are just show trials. These are just stupid. So now I'm questioning the veracity of this claim just because it's the U.S. House Committee subcommittee report. It's terrible. Okay, it says, I want this person very uncomfortable living in our room for free, the executive wrote. Siegel is one of 4 corporate landlords named in the report, along with some other ones. I don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush. I don't even know if these people did anything wrong. Each accused of engaging in abusive and deceptive practices against their tenants during the pandemic. Now, look, I think these things are against the law now. I think that these are against the law now. I think that all of those things are against. I don't think we need new laws. I think we need, again, these corporate folks can afford lawyers to get them out of these shitty situations they put themselves in. So anyway, it says the 4 groups submitted nearly 15,000 eviction filings, mostly while a moratorium on evictions were in place, according to the Examining Pandemic Evictions, a report on abuses by 4 corporate landlords during the coronavirus crisis. Great. I'm glad they found time to look after this. Like, this was the number one issue facing the country. It says, but the House investigation found Siegel took things further and used harassment tactics to push tenants out of their homes without filing formal eviction actions. I get it. I know what they're doing. It says, the executive also suggested telling the tenant that if management knocked on her door and she wasn't there, they would call animal control to come pick up her abandoned pet. The most extreme strategy recommended that if children lived in the unit, to call Child Protective Services to visit the woman's apartment. It is a felony in Texas to file false reports of child abuse or neglect, the House report points out. Now, it is a felony to file false reports of child abuse or neglect. That's against the law. Do they prosecute that? That's the issue now. We have laws. It's just a question of, are people going to prosecute you for breaking those laws? And that's where we've kind of lost track. We tend to not do that anymore. We just kind of let things go. It's really ridiculous. I understand I do not know anything about this person. I'm just going down my list of things to make sure you've tried everything possible to get rid of them. The executive's wording suggests that these harassment tactics may be a tried and true for Siegel, established protocols employed across the company for getting rid of unwanted tenants. The report says, if so, the San Antonio woman may not have been the first tenant targeted for harassment and browbeaten into leaving. I mean, here's the other thing to me. Okay. How did the subcommittee get this email? How is this okay? Has anybody at this place been arrested or fined? Okay. What are the things being done? And the idea, and I'm just going to go over this. The idea with these property management places, these property managers, is that they should know the law and they are professionals. And the idea is that the tenants are not professionals and therefore should be treated with the utmost care. Is that true in practice? No, there are some tenants that are slimy as all get out. I forgot who I was reading about. Was it the Grizzlies? Grizzly knows best. That guy, they rented a place in Beverly Hills that there's no way they could afford, and they still got away with it for a while. So, I mean, don't think that people aren't sophisticated enough to get through all this. I'm just saying in this case, what really happened at the end of the day to the people that did this? Did they do it? Is there evidence that it's been done? Have they been prosecuted? This stuff should be investigated, but not just investigated. Something should come of it. Either they're allowed to clear their name and say, no, this didn't happen, or it did happen. I need to know. I mean, these House subcommittees investigating and not doing anything, or investigating for show trials. I need to see more. But anyway, the point I had with this one is, look, when you read something like this, you can assume it's true. The landlord's always the bad person. Now, the tenant could be a terrible person, no question. But the bias always seems to go towards the landlord for being in the wrong. I don't know why. Maybe they are. I don't know. This is a stereotypical thing. Obviously, we shouldn't be stereotyping things, but we do. So moving on. Thought this was interesting. I like to read these things. I like to read this advice. I like YouTube. I like Google. I like these things because they are factories for confirming your opinions ahead of time. So like if you believe X, Y, and Z, then you write your questions to say X, Y, and Z, and then you get the results you want to. For instance, let's just go over something. Let's say my wife and my anniversary is coming up, and it's not, because our anniversary is in November. Thank you for wondering. But so our anniversary is coming up, and so let's say that I'm like, I don't want to buy my gift, a gift for my wife for our anniversary. So I go to Google and I say, is it okay if I don't buy a gift for my wife for our anniversary? And there's going to be like 10 results. And out of those 10 results, there's going to be at least one that says, yeah, don't buy your wife anything. She doesn't deserve it. And then I'm going to use that as my basis from which to form my opinion or to confirm what I already believe, a confirmation bias, if you will. That's why I find search so fascinating. That's why I'm intrigued by these articles, because I don't really search for these articles. I get the news kind of in my inbox, and then I just go over stuff that I find interesting. Let's get into this particular article and see what it's about. It says 3 essential elements for finding a good real estate agent. Well, I think that's wonderful. The thought is nice, right? We all want to find a good real estate agent. How do we do that? This is in Hopkins County, Texas. And I mean, look, you've got Bethany Ashby over here. She's a lender. You've got Janet Martin Realty up there. They're realtors. I mean, the whole there. I mean, you're getting all advertising now. Oh, look, it's even by Janet Martin Realty. I mean, this is fantastic. She wrote it. Oh, no. Oh, no. She is at the office of Janet Martin, really. So it's very interesting. So is there any bias going into this? I don't know. The question that I would have then is it okay if there's bias? Is there okay if there's bias in this situation? I think so. Let's get into the article. It says, when it comes to selling your property, does it matter which real estate agent sells it? I think that it does. That depends on what you want out of the experience. A lot of variables go into it, and if not careful can negatively impact your wallet and be an extra source of unneeded and unwanted anxiety. Selling is a big decision, so take the time to choose the right agent. During this stressful time, it makes all the difference. Here's 3 things to consider. So where is our bias here? Our bias is towards listing your home for sale. Okay. So you should have wrote the title in theory, like 3 essential elements for finding a good real estate to list your home for sale. Maybe you want different things out of a buyer's agent. I don't know. It says hire an agent. Number 1, hire an agent who knows your area and knows the market for your type of property. Pricing is huge. An agent familiar with the area will be able to help you nail down a number that is comparable to others being sold near you. Too high, and it sits on the market for days, months, or even years. Too low, you risk losing thousands of dollars. Plus, an agent who knows your area has a pool of clients, acquaintances, and contacts looking in that region. This kind of agent can also best articulate the highlights of your property and community to buyers or buyers agents. Also, let's not forget the power of social media. This agent will be able to share your listing on their pages, which have local connections to get the word out in that area or circles of interest. And on the same note, if done effectively, social media and online marketing will also attract buyers from all over the country. For more of that, see item 2. So let's just go through it. Will you be able to nail down a number that is comparable to others being sold near you? If you can't run a comp, you probably shouldn't be in real estate. Just saying. If there's a house today in St. Charles, I guarantee you I'd have a good price for it within an hour, and I'm nowhere close to St. Charles. It says too high and it sits on the market for days. Well, what is your strategy? What is the strategy you've discussed with the seller? Maybe they want to go into the market high, and maybe they want the house to sit for days. In this market, do you come in too low, and does that cause you to be penalized by someone taking a risk losing thousands of dollars? I haven't seen it in my market at this time. Now, the next part is interesting. This is what people run on ads on our radio stations here in St. Louis. It says, plus an agent who knows your area has a pool of clients, acquaintances, and contacts looking in that region. The idea here is the agent alone will just go ahead and find a buyer for you immediately. So you don't have anything to worry about. They know, like I remember this one commercial from a local agent said they had 6,000 buyers at their fingertips ready to buy your house, which is total baloney. And I was really amazed by that number. I was even more amazed when I went and happened to hear a radio station out of Buffalo, New York, making the same claims, but with a different agent. It's almost as if they read the same book. I know that they read the same book because I know the book that it's in. I know that exact book, and I know the exact space that they learned it. It's funny. So one of the seller's biggest fears, honestly, is that they're not going to be able to sell the property. There's this belief that they just can't sell the property, and that is the biggest fear. And so agents play on that fear by saying, well, I have all these buyers that will buy your home. And I mean, it's solving a problem. In sales, you're looking to solve someone's problem. Identify the problem and then solve it. Now, I don't particularly go in that direction. I like to just talk to people, see what they're about, see if they'd be interested in what I do. And, if they are, that's great. And if not, it was nice meeting you, and we'll move on down the road. It says this kind of agent can also best articulate the highlights of your property and community to buyers or buyers agents. Now, let me say this. If a house has like a community pool, you should tell me that on the listing appointment, because I'm not going to know that. At least in St. Louis, one subdivision over here could have a pool. The other subdivision doesn't have pool access. It could also be that the one that doesn't have pool access has access to a different pool. So all kinds of things like that. I have no idea. And says also let's not forget the power of social media. This agent will be able to share a listing on their pages, which have local connections to get the word out in that area circles of interest. I mean, have you ever heard of just buying some exposure on like Facebook? I mean, I always spend money on my listings on Facebook because I want as many people as possible to see the properties available. I don't have to have a neighborhood expert. I literally can just pay like a certain amount of money and get it in front of like thousands of people. On the same note, if done effectively, social media and online marketing will also attract buyers from all over the country. Well, that's great. The only problem is we need somebody that's going to buy the house. And if they're not moving in here, it's not going to help us. So let's move on. It says, make sure the agent provides solid marketing and advertising strategies along with professional photos. All right, well, that does make sense. Let's talk about it. It says bad pictures turn off buyers. In this day and age of pandemic and virtual shopping, many buyers look online before making an appointment to see your property. Good pictures are likely to getting their foot in the door. That's true. I know a house right now that my buyers bought, and the only reason why they were able to buy is because the pictures of the house are terrible. But when you go see it in person, it's like, this is an awesome house. That means professional photos or drone footage give you an edge in this competitive market. I hate drone photos. I will never like drone photos. And when you start off your listing with a picture of the roof on the property of the house, I just think you're an idiot. This is me. I just think it's dumb. Maybe this is just my market though. Maybe other markets are different. But I mean, the first house should be of the front of the house. That's it. Anyway, once you have good pics, then knowing where to advertise and market them takes the extra mile. One key component to this is hiring a retailer willing to invest in marketing. That's true. I hate agents that take these listings, $500,000 listing at full rate, and then they use an iPhone to take the pictures. They don't offer virtual tours. They don't offer floor plans. They don't offer videos. And yet, I'm telling you, there's a lot of agents out there that have more listings than I do, that do far less for their listings. It says, that's one of the reasons why I love working at Janet Martin Realty. At our office, we pay for print ads, several online sites, and put extra dollars into other creative marketing techniques to ensure our seller's property gets the exposure it deserves. Well, good for them. I don't do many print ads anymore. I mean, I do have flyers and things of that nature, but I mean, I don't really do a lot of mailing, mostly because in this market, by the time I would even get a piece of mailing out, the house would be under contract and I'd be kind of like wasting money. Getting qualified buyers is paramount, but finding them can be a challenge. I recommend you interview several agents from different offices, write down your marketing questions, set up an appointment or call them and grill them like it's your job, because it sure is their job to do right by you. Ask them how they plan to invest and promote your property, and then hire the best one. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally someone will call, they'll talk to their friend and they're like, I use this guy or I use this gal. If it's a man, they'll probably say, is she cute? I mean, it's really gross. I know. I'm not proud of it. They'll say, yeah. And then so that guy will call and she'll probably just get the listing because she's attractive. I have never had that luck, unfortunately. But then if someone says, hey, this guy really does a good job, like they would say, my clients would say that about me, then they would use me just because no one's calling like 6 agents and interviewing on their marketing technique. Okay. The number one thing they're going to do after is the agent pretty is, it's funny if it's a husband and wife, and the husband is like, he can't say anything out loud, so he's got to keep his mouth shut. Anyway, the next thing they're going to look for is, hey, how much are you going to list my house for? And then that's the game. If you're the agent that says we can list it for this much, as long as you get it under contract, people don't, the contract to list it. Agents don't care what price that you want to list your house for. You list it for whatever. Your $100,000 too much, it's fine. Over time, we'll just lower it. So that whole game is stupid, but sellers don't know any better. They think that that's the best way to do it. So anyway, talk to former clients to find out what their experience was with an agent. Well, now let's be honest with you. Like, as a real estate agent, you do not realize that I've probably thought of that ahead of time, and I'm probably only going to give you clients that I've had success with. You think I'm giving you the client that I didn't have success with? If there are any, you think you're going to get an accurate picture from those people? I just say that because it's the easiest thing in the world. I know real estate agents that game the system so hard. One of the ways to game the system, you can like one of the metrics that never mattered until Zillow reviews and Google reviews was how much did a house sell over asking price? Somehow there became this game of how often does the agent sell something for over the asking price? And while you would think intuitively that that's a good thing, like, oh, look, this agent's getting more for the property, it's actually in practice a bad thing. It means that agents have literally been pricing their homes too low consistently, and that's how they're getting over asking on every single house. It makes you wonder, like, maybe you shouldn't list with that person because they're not listing a house for the right price. They're probably costing you thousands of dollars. But anyway, let's see what they say. Just because an agent has been in the business for X number of decades does not mean they are the best. Although I'll be honest with you, there are survivors in this business. We talked about them yesterday. They just survive. They make it. And definitely may not be the best for you. Ask around. Again, interviewing more than one agent goes a long way in helping you decide the right one. Yeah, I mean, it's a vanity test. Who do you like more? That's really what it's about. It's gross. It says there are things to consider besides just the bottom line or the dollar amount here. That's true. You have personalities involved too. When it comes to dealing with showings, buyers, and contracts, the stress is real and high. So what kind of agent do you need? Someone who will tell you the cold, hard facts when you need it? One that can close deals while keeping a cool head and helping you stay calm in the process? One that will protect your interests and look out for you best, your best? Consider the whole process and decide what is important to you. Not just any old agent will work. You need one that fits your needs. That's right. This lady is absolutely right. That's what I work on when I meet people to help them buy homes or help them sell homes. I literally want to know, can we work together? Are there things in your personality that we're not going to get along with? And if there are, let's find it out up front so that we can move on down the road and not try to kill each other. I mean, I know it sounds bad, but I will not work with some people. If I get a vibe that they're, jerks, I don't need to work with them. Life is too short. So it says, in conclusion, finding a good agent doesn't have to be hard. It is kind of hard. I mean, if you put your name in Zillow and like you get 17 phone calls from people, yeah. However, it might take a little extra time to think about what you want out of the experience. Once you have an idea of what you want, asking who your friends might refer and then interviewing those agents goes a long way. In the end, your efforts to find the best agent for you will pay off in the more than dollar signs. You may even gain a friend. You know what? I gained a friend this weekend. This wonderful couple. Met this wonderful couple. We've got a house under contract. They're moving into town, and they are wonderful people. Loved going to show houses with both of them. Loved their personalities. And I even said, hey, we're writing this offer. Can I write in the offer that the buyers agree that they will be friends with me forever? Because they are that great. Does that happen on every house? Kind of, because I like my buyers and I like my sellers. So, but anyway, I don't know. I thought that was a pretty fair article. What did you think? What did you think? I don't know. Do you want to do another article? I mean, we've got time. Let's take a look. One last article. It says, home sellers were spoiled. 5 rude awakenings to brace for you if you're selling your home today. Now, we talked about this earlier. We've got a situation where we've got sellers for the last 2 years have really, really had the upper hand, like significant. So we're looking at no inspections. We're looking at inspections for buyer purposes only, cash deals, way above asking price, really, really big concessions on the part of the buyers. Now with the market turning, will buyers try to, twist that knife into the back of the seller? You bet you. Now, I don't like to be that way. I've never really been that way. I don't think it's worth it a lot of times, but let's see what this article says. We'll see where we go from there. It says for the past 2 years, real estate has been in a raging seller's market. That's true. Sellers have been able to expect offers well over asking prices, frantic bidding wars, and few, if any, strings attached. They've basically been able to name their price and get it with some extra to spare. And so that's something that you need to consider. Look, if you're listing your house right now and it hasn't sold, like, you really bungled it. Like, it may never sell. I mean, that's bad. In this market, you're not selling your house. I mean, how do you go to a dinner table where everyone has sold their house for $20,000 to $50,000 over asking, and you say, well, we've had our house on the market for 50 days and we haven't had a showing in 3 weeks. It says, but those glory days may be coming to an end. The real estate market is cooling down. It's what realtor.com says. That's what I hear. In St. Louis, it's been really, really strong still. Homebuyers have more listings to choose from, but less borrowing power due to continued high prices and increasing mortgage rates. Okay, so let's go over that again. Have more listings to choose from. Yes, I think that's true. Less borrowing power due to continuing high prices and increasing mortgage rates. Well, mortgage rates have come down in the past 2 weeks. This means sellers may not be able to whip up those epic offers they've heard of and hoped might come their way. That's right. So if I were talking to anybody now on the listing side, I'd say, look, we have to have a strong property coming to market. It needs to be priced right, and I think we'll still do okay. If we try to come to market way too high, we're in trouble. So sellers were spoiled during the COVID pandemic and are in for a rude awakening when it comes to the selling of their homes, so warns Luke Smith, an agent with eXp Realty in Georgia. Now, that's not true. Sellers that sold during the pandemic and got more for their house than they ever thought they would have already sold. The people that are selling their houses now and moving forward didn't know what it was like during the good times because they were not selling. I'm just saying, it says that doesn't mean sellers can't get a decent deal. They can. But if your home selling fantasies are based on what the market used to be 6 months earlier, then you could be setting yourself up for disappointment and perhaps even jeopardizing your sale. I think that's true. It says to help reset your expectations to today's realty, here's a closer look at what's changed. Okay, well, that's fair. It says the old norm, sellers should expect a bidding war. The new norm, bidding wars may be rare. But look, this is regional. So we don't really have bidding wars per se. We have escalation clauses that typically take into effect after asking price. And that's how it escalates. It's not really a bidding war per se. It's not like this party here gives their highest and best, and then this party here gives its highest and best, and we go back and forth like an auction. That's not the way it is. It says, while sellers have probably heard rumors of rousing bidding wars for homes kicking final prices way up, there are no guarantees this will happen today. In this market, sellers should not expect a bidding war. All right. As for what's caused the market to cool down, Smith points to rising inventory levels in many markets, among other factors. So what I'm seeing in St. Louis, I am seeing more inventory come on the market, but it's garbage inventory. It's stuff that was terrible in the first place. I don't know why they waited so long to even put it out there. It says sellers need to understand that there's an increased amount of homes coming on the market, which means that buyers now have the option to consider multiple places before making their final decision. That's true. However, like I pointed to you in the beginning of our live stream today, I'm a buyer's agent. My buyers have paid me or paying me to buy a home for them or find them a home. I'm going out this weekend. What kind of offers am I making? I'm making an offer that I think my buyers will get the home for. And if I go to a house and there's 4 other offers on it, I'm not going to be below asking. It says, put simply, when inventory is low, buyers compete for the same few available homes, which spurs bidding wars. However, with more inventory available, buyers have more choices and become less likely to compete. I've had buyers that have sat out this whole 2 years and just waited. I know a group right now just waiting. They're like, we're not putting in a bidding war. Now, there's an advantage there. Look, if a house has been on the market for 30, 40, 50 days in this market, you missed on price. You've got a real problem because it's hard to get people to look at houses that have been on the market for a long time because basically the whole market said it's not worth that number and you're not even going low enough that we could get a good number for this house. So, I mean, that's your issue. I would definitely not put in an offer for asking if a house has been on the market for 30 days right now. That would be stupid. But those first houses, those ones that come to market this weekend, those are the ones where I don't know what we're going to do. It says the old norm, buyers will pay well over the asking price. New norm, buyers may only offer list price or less. Well, so just from my experience and all of my career, one of the listing agents I worked with right in the beginning would always say, the first offer is the strongest, okay, and you should take it. Now, I don't believe that. I've seen it where that's true, but I don't necessarily believe it. The second thing, though, is that you ask yourself the question, buyers, do you want to buy this house? And if the answer is yes, then you know that the price that the seller will take is the asking price. You know that, especially if you're the only one that's writing an offer, which also makes it, why would you write an offer for the exact price, the asking price, when no one else has stepped up and done that, or else the house would have sold? I'm just going through the things that go through my mind. You may think differently. It says, sellers used to expect offering well over a home's asking price, often adding tens of thousands of extra dollars. Now lending conditions are much different, which is affecting buyers' ability to make such generous bids. So yes, when the market was hot, someone would come to me, a buyer would say, okay, I'd like to buy this house. How much is it going to cost? And this was a very annoying and bad thing about my business. I couldn't tell the buyer what the house would sell for eventually, because any number I came up with that I thought was stupid, the house would sell for even more than that. It was tough. So I don't miss that on the buyer side. It says to start the year, mortgage interest rates were around 3%, and they topped out in mid-June close to 6% before the most recent rate hikes. Currently, they're up 2.5% above where they were at the start of the year, almost up 3% from a year ago. If you guys remember in January, when all the Realtor.com, Zillow, Redfin, all of them were predicting the mortgage rates, they were all saying 5% maybe max, and we were over 6% in June. So nobody knows. Even the most learned experts can be wrong, and they're never going to go back and say they were wrong. So it's like, anyway, I don't really care what they think. I care about what's going to happen next week. Say today's buyers are spending hundreds of extra dollars per month in mortgage payments because of higher mortgage rates. They aren't able to stretch their budgets and put in offers that are as high as they might have been able to put last year when mortgage rates are lower. So I listed a house maybe 2 weeks ago, and here's what I found. That house was priced for a good price. That was a good price. If you wanted to buy that house, you're going to have to be over asking. How much? I had no idea, but I knew that you'd have to be over asking. The problem I saw then that makes me upset is there were people that saw that house at asking and said, I would buy it for that price. And they had no idea that that house wasn't going to sell for that price. It was going to sell for much higher. I didn't intentionally make the house sell for lower than what it would have gone. I didn't price it that way. I priced it for what I thought the house would sell for at a minimum. And so what we were seeing maybe in many of the offers that we got were people that were at the very top or even above what they could actually afford. And I hate that. And that was going on all summer long. Somebody would say, oh, we finally found a house. They would be excited. They would write an offer, and it was just like, you're not even close. You're not even in the ballpark. It says, old norm, buyers may waive contingencies. New norm, contingencies are back with a vengeance. During extreme sellers markets the past 2 years, sellers enjoyed many unusual benefits, one of which was getting contingency-free offers or bids without inspections or appraisals. An agent, Joanne Bauer, with Coldwell Banker Realty in Scottsdale, says those days will soon be a thing of the past. Today, sellers can anticipate reining in their offers by coming in under asking and by asking for repairs or seller concessions. In addition, they may even want to offer incentives to make their home more attractive to buyers who, for the first time in years, are seeing the market begin to shift towards their favor. So what are we looking at for an offer right now? One of the things I think in St. Louis that was appreciated by sellers and buyers alike is inspections for buyer informations only, or buyer inspections for informational purposes only. And what that basically means is buyers can get as many inspections as they want to, but we're not going to negotiate repairs. If you don't like the house, we'll just go back to market and you can go your way. Do I think that's going to continue? I don't know. I like it from the perspective of the seller, and I like it from the perspective of the buyer. We've got in the contract, it's 10 days to have inspections. It's another 10 days to come to an agreement on a standard real estate board contract. That's 20 days, and you're trying to close in 30. If you come to an agreement to make repairs on day 20, that only gives you 10 days to make repairs before the house goes under, is sold. It's not a lot of time. And with like the service industries being, out as long as they are, inspections, St. Louis County's running about 3 weeks on inspections for occupancy permits. So, I mean, it's like, it's not good. Not good. I don't know if that's going to change. Let's see what other thing. I have always thought that an appraisal rider was a good thing on the seller side and on the buyer side. I don't necessarily agree with the appraisals or the appraisal process, but I want my buyer to know that if they buy a house, that it appraised at least by some version of a professional other than me and a disinterested third party, which, you know, may or may not be disinterested if they're working for the bank, but they're not really working for the bank because it's third party now. That's what they say. Anyway, I don't mind that concession. I was very uncomfortable when you had the appraisal gap protection, meaning, you know, a house appraises for say 200,000, but the offer is accepted at 220, and now you have to come up with $20,000 in cash in addition to your down payment. This punished lower income buyers. And you may say, well, lower income buyers shouldn't be buying a house. Look, $250,000 for a house, that's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money. I don't take that lightly. All cash offers, I've always thought those were stupid. I mean, you know, if you can't accept a mortgage for a house, it's on you. Anyway, it says old norm homes will sell in a few days. New norm homes will sell in a few weeks and longer. As more houses hit the market and the buyer pool dries up, sellers should be prepared for it to take longer to sell their home. They need to be patient, and if they get an offer, they shouldn't wait it out to see if they can get more. Fargo further suggests that certain properties are more likely to sit on the market, and particularly points to properties that are priced higher than their market value. If a property is priced right and sellers are honest with themselves about how much they can get for their home, it won't sit for long. The houses that are sitting are reducing their prices are the ones that are overpriced for the market. He says data shows a similar trend. In April and May, we saw a spike in price cuts. Now we're now twice as likely to see a price cut as we were in the same time last year. When would I do a price cut on a listing right now? 30 days. And that's too long. It probably should be at 15 days. So that's something that you should talk about with your seller. So when you go to talk to your seller, you say, hey, the market right now, if we price the home right, we'll get a few showings and we should be able to sell this thing. If we miss on the price, we need to figure out, we need to have a strategy. So we need to probably cut the price if we've gone to the market too high. You know, it's one of those things. People always want the best for themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. People that buy a $300,000 house think their house is worth $400,000. This is natural. But when they go through a whole week or a whole month with no one even coming to see their house at $300,000, it's a bad reality hammer basically to them. It says old norm, homes will sell in any condition. New norm, homes need to be showroom ready. This ought to be interesting. And this is what I think there's Compass, the brokerage, has this set up where everything, it's a concierge service where they'll make your house pretty. That was one of their markets. It'd be interesting to see as inventory builds up and they've got to stretch themselves over a larger span if that's going to still fly. In 2021, it seemed like the condition of a home didn't matter. There's so much interest in so few homes that prospective buyers were willing to look past any deficiencies or odd quirks. That's true. Today's buyer, however, are more discerning. Sellers today need to focus on preparing homes to compete in showroom condition. Sellers who have move-in ready homes should continue to see healthy traffic provided the property has been priced correctly and marketed well. But homes with odors, stained carpet, dated paneling, worn roofs, or lacking kitchen upgrades will likely sell for less than expecting. I'm done. I'm gonna move out of this particular spot. I'm gonna go here. I was looking at homes. I looked at, I believe, 26 homes this weekend, and I saw a house literally listed for $350,000 that needed every single room needed to be repaired. The backyard was a disaster, and the basement had standing water in it. And they came to market at $350,000 in an area where a nice home that you could move in was $350,000. Now, I don't know if the agent's just a bad agent. I don't know if they're related to the seller in such a way that they would just list it for whatever they want to, but they're not selling it at $350,000. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen at all, ever. Not going to happen. Terrible marketing plan to come to market with that house at that price. I mean, seriously. But who knows? Who knows? I told you what I'm doing. I told you my stance. If the listing agent for the house that I'm going to put an offer in on Friday is watching this, you know where I'm coming from. I have no idea what I'm going to do, in the sense that, look, if you don't have any offers, I can't come in, $20,000 above asking in this market. So keep that in mind. Anyway, what did you think about the show today? I kind of liked it. I kind of like going over things. Was it my funniest show? No. But it was a good show, I think. You can tell me in the comment section. I had somebody chat. JT, he says Indiana has the best rentals in the U.S. That's the first person that it might be even spam, but that's the first person that's chatted with me on a live stream in months. So I thank him or her for that. And I'm going to head out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you on the next